Stylish Rich coming right back at you. And today, we got to talk about Pooh Shiesty's father, Lontrell Williams Sr., also known as Mob Boss. He is being released from federal custody while his son is still sitting in the middle of a case that could change the rest of his life. And I'm going to say this from the start. This story is not just about bond, Gucci Mane, a record contract, or some street drama that allegedly spilled into a Dallas recording studio. This is about fatherhood. This is about what a man puts into his son before that son is old enough to understand what he's being taught. This is about how a child can be raised around a lifestyle so long that by the time he becomes a man, the streets don't feel like a choice anymore. They feel like blood. Now, according to federal reporting, Pooh Shiesty, his father, Big 30, and others are accused in a Dallas studio robbery and kidnapping case connected to a contract dispute involving Gucci Mane's 1017 record label. Now, they have pled not guilty, so we're not going to talk like a courtroom has already decided everything. But the allegations are serious, and the questions around Pooh Shiesty's father are even bigger than the case itself. Because when people hear that Pooh Shiesty's father was released from custody, the first thing a lot of people started asking was simple. How does a man with that kind of alleged history and that kind of federal case get released while his son remains facing heavy consequences? Now, we don't know the full legal reason. That's for the courts to decide. But I do know what the streets are saying, because this case already looks crazy. And when a father is accused of being involved in the same alleged crash out as his son, people are going to start asking hard questions.
This week, 9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas. 8 of the 9 were arrested yesterday in Dallas, Memphis, and Nashville. These individuals who are charged and arrested include Lontrell Williams Jr., also known as Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Sr., R.I.C.H. Jr., also known as Big 30, Kadarius Waters, Demarion Gibson, DeMarcus Glover, Corday Johnson, Darian McDaniel, and Terrence Rogers has not been arrested yet, but will be soon. The complaint alleges that on January 10th of this year...
The bigger point is this. The arrest was not just a regular rap headline. It felt like a warning sign about how bad things can get when street thinking follows an artist into the music business. Pooh Shiesty had just come home. He had a rap career people still cared about. He had a name that still meant something in the industry. He had a fan base waiting to see if he could get back to music and really make a second run. Then this case happens, and now the conversation is not about a comeback. It's about a federal kidnapping and robbery case. That is the part that makes people look at his father different. Because a father is supposed to be the man who says, son, don't do that. The father is supposed to be the man who sees the trap before his son walks into it. And that's why this story bothers people so much. Because the allegation is not that his father tried to pull him away from the mess. The allegation is that his father was right there in the middle of it. And if that is true, that is one of the saddest parts of this case. Because Pooh Shiesty was not some young man who woke up and created the mob image out of nowhere. His father was known as the mob boss. His father owned Mob Ties Records. There are images of Pooh Shiesty dressed up as a child in that same mob-style presentation, standing beside his father, looking like he was being introduced to the image before he could even understand the price of it. And that's where this fatherhood conversation gets real. Some people don't just raise children. They raise future versions of their own unfinished business. They put their pride, their street dreams, their failures, their reputation into their sons. Then act surprised when the son grows up thinking that's who he has to be. That is what makes this so unfair to Pooh Shiesty as a child. Because if you are raised around that language, that energy, that music, and that image, you don't always know you being programmed. You just think that's life. You thinking it's just manhood, just respect. And by the time you hit your late teens or early 20s, you already deep in the street life.
Shiesty's father, Lontrell Williams Sr., and another Memphis rapper known as Big 30 appeared in federal court today. Action News 5's Caitlin Miller was in the courtroom in downtown Memphis. So Caitlin, fill us in. What happened today?
Yeah, Joyce, so they're actually still in there, but what I can tell you is that a special agent from the FBI, Marcellus Hobbs, from the Dallas Violent Crimes Task Force, took the stand, and defense attorneys for Lontrell Williams Sr., Pooh Shiesty's father, and R.I.C.H. Jr., also known as rapper Big 30, asked Hobbs a key question. Is there any hard evidence, like video surveillance, showing either man possessing a gun or threatening anyone? And Hobbs said no. He also testified that no concrete evidence was found in Wright's car or Williams' homes when they were arrested. But even so, the judge ruled there is still probable cause for both men today based on cell phone data, outside surveillance video, and victim statements that stand uncontested. Right now, we're still waiting for the detention decision, so we're watching to see whether they'll be held or released as we move forward.
This case has people confused, speculating, and trying to figure out what is really going on behind the scenes. People are asking how Mob Boss got out and Big 30 couldn't when Big 30 doesn't have a criminal record. But to me, the biggest question is not just how the court is handling Mob Boss. The biggest question is what kind of foundation was laid for Pooh Shiesty long before this case ever existed. Because a lot of young fathers need to pay attention to this story. You may not think your son is watching, but he is. You may not think the music you play around him matters, but it does. You may not think the people you bring around him teach him anything, but they do. And I'm not saying a father has to be perfect. A lot of men had children young. A lot of men were still learning how to be men when they became fathers. But once you have a son, you have to understand something. Your life is not just your life anymore. Your decisions become lessons. Your music becomes his language. Your violence becomes his idea of strength. And that's how a child gets desensitized. He hears about prison so much that prison stops being scary. He sees guns so much that guns become normal. He watches grown men glorify street codes so much that he starts thinking a crash out is a badge of honor. By the time he is old enough to make his own decisions, he may be making them from a mind that was trained years earlier. That's the part people don't want to talk about. A son can be responsible for his own actions and still be damaged by what his father taught him to value. Both things can be true. And with Pooh Shiesty, that is why people are looking at Mob Boss so harshly. Because whether he is guilty or not in this case, the public image around him is not some church deacon who lost his way. The public image is a father who helped build a mob identity, stood close to his son's street persona, and now is being accused of being part of the same alleged incident that could put his son away for a very long time. That's why people are calling him a bad influence. That's why people are saying this was a father-son crash out. Now, we also have to talk about the informant rumors because they are part of the public conversation. There have been online claims and alleged paperwork discussions about Mob Boss possibly having a history as a cooperating source years ago.
You know what our agreement was, Zach?
What?
If you tell me I'm lying to you, but you have the right to as my brother.
You don't got no paperwork, Wack. Stop it.
That's what you think, Zach?
Wack.
Okay, you know what you got to do when I send it to you, right? Here it comes. His daddy been a rat since 2009.
Stop it, Wack. Stop it, Wack. Yo, what?
Okay. Hear what I just sent you.
Yo, where does Wack?
Listen,
This nigga said
that's
daddy
a full
been a rat.
file. I'm gonna send
Yo,
you.
Wack, stop it,
No, I'm
bro.
about to send you where he ratted. Listen, the nigga been a rat since 09. I'm sending you all the work. Pooh Shiesty was 8 or 9 years old, so this is his pop, live and direct.
I'm not here to present internet paperwork, but I will say this. When you build your whole life around street codes and then people start questioning whether you ever live by those codes, that is the kind of thing that can destroy your image fast. And it makes this whole story even more tragic. Because if a father raises his son inside street values, then those same street values help put his son in federal prison. And then the father's own street credibility gets questioned. What was all of it even for? What did Pooh Shiesty really inherit? Not land, not peace, not structure, not wisdom. He inherited a war inside his name. And that war may cost him years of his life.
We're following breaking news this morning. A federal judge has denied the government's request to revoke the release of Lontrell Williams Sr., the father of Memphis rapper Pooh Shiesty. After a hearing Wednesday, the judge ordered Williams be released, lifting any temporary stay that had delayed it. He's now set to be released from custody. Williams Sr. and co-defendant Rodney Big 30 Wright Jr. have pleaded not guilty in the Dallas studio kidnapping and robbery case involving rapper Gucci Mane. A jury trial for Pooh Shiesty and 8 others is still set for July 6.
Now we can see why this release has people talking so much. A federal judge ordered Lontrell Williams Sr. released on custody ahead of trial, while the larger case is still moving forward and the July 2026 trial date is still hanging over everybody's head. And people are asking how a man with this background, his alleged role, and his public reputation ends up released in a case like this. That question is fair to ask, but the court has its own rules about detention, bond, evidence, risk, and conditions. But public perception says something feels off. And that's why this story is bigger than him getting out. Because whether Mob Boss is in custody or out of custody, the damage to his son's life is still sitting there. Pooh Shiesty is still facing serious federal allegations. The government still alleges that Gucci Mane and others were robbed, and forced into business actions at gunpoint. And if the government proves this case, the consequences will be life-altering. A real father should want his son to outgrow the worst parts of him. A real father should say, don't copy my mistakes, learn from them. Because every generation is supposed to get wiser, not just more dangerous with better jury. Be careful who you bring around your son and what you make look cool. Because you may change at 40, but he might still be living off what you put in him at 10. You may finally get tired of the streets, but he may just be getting addicted to the version of manhood that you taught him. A lot of our grandfathers and fathers back in the day were not perfect, but most of them were not raising us to be gangsters on purpose. They might have been hard, they might have been flawed, they might have made a lot of mistakes, but a lot of them still wanted better for us than what they survived. Today, some men are raising their sons inside the same lifestyle they should be rescuing them from. And then when the system swallows the son, everybody wants to act like it came out of nowhere. It ain't come out of nowhere. It was planted, it was watered, and it was celebrated. And now it's in court. This is why the Pooh Shiesty story hurts. Because you could see the talent. You could see the star power. You could see the chance he had to come home and change direction. But if the same energy that raised him is still standing next to him, still pulling him back into that street thinking, then how was he supposed to escape it? That's the question. And I'm not taking all the responsibility off Pooh Shiesty. He a grown man. He got to answer for his own decisions. But I also cannot ignore the fact that some men are raised inside a mindset before they ever get a fair chance to choose something else. So when people call Mob Boss the worst influence Pooh Shiesty ever had, I understand why they say it. Now Mob Boss is being released and the case still has to play out. Maybe his lawyers proved the government wrong. Maybe the courtroom story looks different than the internet story. Maybe there are facts we don't know yet. But the fatherhood lesson is already there. What you teach your son when he is little can become the thing that destroys him when he is grown. And if that doesn't make every father think, then nothing will. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.